Assalamu alaikum. So in this video, I want to incorporate a few of my notes as well as some reading of, of where we are. It's getting a little bit more complicated, and we have to refer back, and so I'm going to try this new format. Last paragraph started off saying that really rational inquiry is sanctioned in Islam, and then it went on to illustrate but this rational inquiry is not one that is divorced from the vital organic content of the universe as a whole. Pure reason can't be isolated. Initially, when Muslims took a pure Greek type of pure reason, rational attitude, this broadened their outlook. But according to Iqbal, it became an obstacle to actually understanding the message of the Quran. Rationalists such as Ibn Rushd were rejected. This is in the previous paragraph. And they went on to inspire France and Italy. This was because Christianity at that time had been adverse to any type of reason and stressed faith alone. So when reason was able to, when there was a justification of using reason within, that became permitted by the church, this led to an excitement and a period of productivity, but one that ultimately neglected the vital existence of a human individual. So this was the second. Just to give a little bit of context to the third paragraph, I've written that we have to know about German thinker Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, 1646 to 1716, and Christian Wolff, 1679 to 1754. So they had laboriously worked to establish a new type of rationalistic foundation for a new type of Christian church, one that proved conclusively the existence of God, and it laid one that would lay out a rational justification for the immortality of the soul and ultimately a basis of moral law, rooted not in the authority of the Bible but in the authority of reason primarily. But empiricist thinker like Scottish David Hume, 1711 to 1776, began to see that these proofs didn't prove what they claimed to be. And it was Immanuel Kant in 1724 to 1804 that said, "Hume awakened me from my dogmatic slumber." By this he meant the dogmatism of Leibniz Wolff's confidence in reason. So in 1781, he demonstrated that reason can't prove metaphysical dogma with his groundbreaking book, The Critique of Pure Reason. So let me just read what these notes refer to. It cannot, however, be denied that Ghazali's mission was apostolic, like that of Kant in Germany of the 18th century. In Germany, rationalism appeared as an ally of religion, but she soon realized that the dogmatic side of religion was incapable of demonstration. The only course open to her was to eliminate dogma from the sacred record. With the elimination of dogma came the utilitarian view of morality, and thus rationalism completed the reign of unbelief. Such was the state of theological thought in Germany when Kant appeared. His critique of pure reason revealed the limitations of human reason and reduced the whole work of the rationalist to a heap of ruins. So Iqbal goes on to say that about reducing the work of rationalists to ruins. It's almost as if in allowing the individual to have the freedom of faith, he had to destroy the prison of sterile conceptuality. But Kant, in a sense, really left faith in God homeless, and then tried to rebuild a structure that still gave some reason for a person to be good and moral, but not necessarily using faith in God as a premise. Faith in God was just something that happened in private, kind of out in the out on the street on a bench. So, because, and why he did this? Because he knew that metaphysics, or thought he knew that metaphysics couldn't affirm the possibility of knowledge of God. And the new building that he created was a rational one, and that's really encapsulated in his rational theory of morality called the categorical imperative. So now Iqbal goes on to deal more with Imam Ghazali. But before he said so, he talks about Immanuel Kant, that he has justly been described as God's greatest gift to his country, God's greatest gift to Germany. Imam Ghazali's philosophical skepticism, which, however, went a little too far, virtually did the same kind of work in the world of Islam, in breaking the back of that proud but shallow rationalism, which moved in the same direction as pre-Kantian rationalism in Germany. There is, however, one important difference here between Ghazali and Kant. Kant, consistently with his principles, could not affirm the possibility of a knowledge of God. Ghazali, finding no hope in analytical thought, moved to mystic experience, and there found an independent content for religion. In this way, he succeeded in securing for religion the right to exist independently of science and metaphysics. So in the previous paragraphs, Iqbal has alluded to the personal history of Imam Ghazali, his evolution in thought through crisis, and his embarking upon a method of skepticism. In a way, this whole narrative is preemptive. It's kind of like would be repeated in the drama that unfolded centuries later in Europe. So in this sense, Imam Ghazali embodies both what David Hume and Immanuel Kant did as a separate category. For in Islam, according to Iqbal, this type of challenge of rationalism came from Ibn Sina instead of Leibniz-Wolff's rationalism. Both of these types of rationalism promised certainty but actually resulted in skepticism. In the Tahafut al-Falasifa, he dismantles rationalistic philosophy in a manner similar to Kant and Hume. And in the Munaqid min al-Dalal, probably mispronounced that, he writes, that he finds no hope in analytical thought. Oh, that's what that's what Iqbal said about this. This is why Iqbal says Ghazali found no hope in analytical thought. This is probably in reference to this book, and here's a quote from this book which I found: of Imam Ghazali. My thirst for grasping the reality of things was indeed a natural instinct which God placed in me. It was not satisfied by knowledge I had acquired. Knowledge which is not certain knowledge is not secure, and knowledge which is not secure is not knowledge. So Iqbal is praising Imam Ghazali and elevating him above Immanuel Kant, and of course far above David Hume, but he sees a certain failure to see what he identified as separate is in fact organically whole. And then he goes on to the next line of this, but the revelation of the total infinite in mystic experience convinced him of the finitude and inclusiveness of thought, and drove him to draw a line of cleavage between thought and intuition. He failed to see that thought and intuition are organically related. And the next part of the sentence starts to get a little bit difficult. I'm not really going to go into it too deeply. And that thought must necessarily simulate finitude and inconclusiveness because of its alliance with serial time. So just to repeat that from my notes, but the revelation of the total infinite in the mystic experience convinced him of the finitude and the inconclusive thought, and drove him to draw a line of cleavage between thought and intuition. So according to Iqbal then, Imam Ghazali sees thought in this sense as classifications, inferences and analyses, and that these are unable to deliver knowledge of the infinite. Because of this awareness of the limitation of reason, that reason was as understood within the tradition of the philosophers, he perceived this chasm between contemplating the infinite and thinking of the finite. However, Iqbal will suggest that there is a continuity between the two, and that these can unite in the organic unity that is man. Iqbal, in the next few pages after this, he goes on to write, thought and intuition are organically related. Thought is capable of infinite expansion. Intuition, if properly trained, is capable of becoming an organ of knowledge. There is no opposition of intuition and reason, and they combine to become a vital act of consciousness. So Iqbal is being critical, but we must remember that he essentially is praising Imam Ghazali and making an excuse, and the praise that he gives is that he succeeded in securing for religion the right to exist independently of science and metaphysics. So he insists that religious faith does not and will never need to justify itself in the light of science and philosophy. So this ties back to the first paragraph, which claimed that the questions at stake with religion are infinitely higher than those that science and philosophy deal with. And they are questions that don't just deal with a single aspect. They're questions They don't just deal with a single aspect or department of man. The religion deals with questions that deals with the whole of man. These aren't questions we just think about with our mind or even experience, or just experience or feel with our heart alone. These involve, and I quote from Iqbal, the whole man. Religion is an expression of the whole man. What Ghazali has done is to relegate and somewhat disempower the importance of science and metaphysics so that it won't try to supersede its authority over religion. But according to Iqbal, this is short-sighted, because religion stands in greater need of a rational foundation of its ultimate principles than even the dogmas of science. So just because a fine building needs a firm and well-constructed foundation doesn't mean that the foundation is superior to the building above it. The foundation and the construction form what is essentially the same building. So any attempt to weaken the foundation is dangerous. We should bear in mind, however, that he's not laying blame at the feet of Imam Ghazali for being the cause of Muslim material decline, as is the oft-repeated trope of the Orientalist or the blatant modernist. Iqbal was well aware that there were many scientific discoveries and developments after the time of Imam Ghazali. He comprehended reason and gave it a place. But there's a gap. It may not have been a very substantial gap, but it's a gap anyway. And if there is a gap, say, between the foundation and the building, then there will be some kind of subsidence. So this is a very I want to say dangerous, I want to say controversial point that is being made here, but I think the point that's being made is something which we're not really facing full on. We're not really looking at it. We're kind of sticking our heads in the sand and pretending that what we receive from Imam Ghazali and from traditional Islam is fine, and that the problems of modernity are the problems that modernity caused itself by leaving the kind of way forward shown by Imam Ghazali. Anyway, on that note, I finish.